And waiting, as they have for the past 6 months. The forgotten families of South Korea's ferry sinking, their child or relatives still missing in the waters of the Yellow Sea. April 16th, the passenger ferry sank off the south coast, killing more than 300 people, the majority of them school children on a field trip. Overloading of cargo, much of which wasn't tied down properly, contributed to the sinking, according to officials. An accident that should never have happened devastated a nation. Park Eun-mi is still living that nightmare with her husband. Looking at photos of their 16-year-old daughter, Dayoon, they refuse to accept she may never be found. We need to find our child, she says. We can't leave until my child is found. Even if we die here, we need to stay until we find her. Body after body was brought ashore in the weeks after the disaster, but no one has been found since July. The search continues. Winter is fast approaching. Jindo Port, where the search operation has been based, has become a memorial for those who lost their lives. People come to pay their respects. Each yellow ribbon is a prayer or a message of support. Two of the families are still living here at the port. They're refusing to leave until their loved one has been found. Now, their lives have been at a standstill for the past 6 months. The same could be said of this country's political system. A protest tent has been set up by some families in the heart of Seoul, calling for the truth. But an investigation into what went wrong has not even started. Politicians and families still arguing over what it should look like and who will lead it. Parliament has been crippled for months. Thousands of draft bills sit unread. And back in Jindo, 10 families waiting for their loved ones to be found are sickened that their loss has turned political. I feel embarrassed to be living in a country like this, says Park. My husband is saying that we should move out of the country when they find our daughter. We can't trust this country anymore. They're not the only grieving family to feel this way. So 6 months on, there's still no sign of these 10 victims. And the question hasn't been publicly asked at this point, but with winter fast approaching, it will at some point. When does the search stop and this decision be made to actually raise the ship? John?
Has the ship itself been exhaustively and completely searched? Is there any guess about where these remains could be?
The ship has been searched. It's been searched extensively, and of course that's where the majority of the victims were found. But there have been a couple of bodies that have been found many miles, many kilometres away from the ship itself. So of course the fear is that in the hours or maybe even the days just after this disaster, some victims may have been lost. And of course this is something that does concern the families. The family that I spoke to, though, refused to entertain the thought that they may never find their daughter. And of course it's a very sensitive issue for officials to talk about as well. It was just a few days after this disaster happened when a cordon was put around the ship, or at least in certain areas where the current was strong, to try and make sure that no one was lost. But of course at this point there is a concern that that may have been the case. John?